Welcome to Learn the Sword. Today we're using a Hatsuwari. Hatsuwaris are really good tools. They're really good. And you know why they're good? Because they use the correct materials that have been used and employed for at least 1,000 years. Just basic bamboo with a little bit of leather over the top. Now, why is this called a Hatsuwari? Because it's split in 8 different ways. Hatsu means 8, wari means split. 8 splits. You would know a Yotsuwari is 4 splits as a regular kendo Shinai. So there are lots of terms that they used to use hundreds of years ago that have changed now, but if you go back to the traditional language, you'll find out that a Shinai Bokutou sounds really good. Hatsuwari, I know what you're talking about. So let's take this Hatsuwari, and we know that if we ever start sparring against other people or start practicing technique, like 2-man technique going back and forth, where I'm swinging from 1 to 7 and so is my partner, and we go back and forth and make sure our timing and rhythm is really good. Well, when we're hitting swords together, we could use metal. And that doesn't work too well just because you'll take the blade and you'll really nick it up really bad. Matter of fact, you look at it a couple years later and go, what was I doing? The next thing you can use is wood, and wood is very good. But as a general rule, when you start hitting wood together, unless it's very expensive and hardwood, it starts all breaking down. But if you take a Hatsuwari and you use it against another one, you've got years of good training because these don't break down. And if they do, well, it takes a little bit of time. But the key point is that if you have a wooden sword and your partner has a Hatsuwari like this, and then you go back and forth, you can apply technique at full speed and see how it connects with the sword. Because it's all about you working the sword out here. It isn't about your hands bringing the sword into the target, and it isn't about you. I'll say this hundreds of times. It's about the tip of the sword getting to the target in the easiest, most sneakiest way you can with as much pressure that doesn't telegraph your thoughts or intentions. So from here, for example, if we take a cut and we cut down low, like on kata 2, and we bring it back like this. Now you notice that I don't slide into it and bring it back, because we're practicing right at this time in our training a little bit more of Bokutou, which is drawing and sheathing and being on the target now, instead of trying to move out and be cool looking, because cool looking looks cool, cool gets you killed. So what I'd like you to do is just take the sword or the Hatsuwari and just lean forward a little bit and throw it out right off your waist. Throw it out like that. And let's move back and forth. Stand up, lean into it, grab it, come into your triangle here, lean a little forward and throw it out. Look at me at a side view. Standing up, triangle, and go like that. You notice how my foot hits the ground, because the minute you hear my foot and the cut, it all comes in at the same time. So later down the road when you're training and your hips and your arms and the sword all come together as one, you know it's all one movement, because if you do 2 or 3 movements that create one movement, it's great. Hope your opponent is blind or can't see very well. And that's the secret. See, the problem is that most other sword people you're going to be working with are very much beginners, or they're really good, which means that they've already done all this. So it's time for more practice. Back up again and bring it back, and let's just practice this. Grab and pull. Move back, grab, and come in like that. Just where my foot is. Make it real basic and simple. Just like this. And you notice I'm just sort of going around in a corner like this, and just throwing it out so you can see all the different angles. You can see my left hand is at my side here. See, my left hand is at my side because right now it doesn't need to be used. But eventually, if I use it, all I have to do is stay akimbo with my elbow to my trunk of my body and bring it back up so I can easily grab or manipulate the back end of the sword when need be. There's another thing I'd like you to understand. When you're doing, for example, kata 2, the enemy to the right, And it's a two-cut kata, whereas I turn to my right, step into it, and I make a flat cut from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, or my 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then I come up here with my left foot and cut down from an 11 to 5 o'clock cut, called a migi kesagiri. Now, what I'd like you to understand is that most people who pull out the sword, they pull it out way here. And you'll see this throughout the whole thing. Everybody pulls up their sword high because they think I got to cut into his neck. Not really. What I like you to look at is, if you're up here like this and you throw it to his neck, it's fine. If I throw it to his midsection, it's fine. But if I keep it down around where my belt is, or my belt would be on this, and I pull out like this, it goes down to the person's waist. If you take a sword and I come up around your face, you go, oh. But if I come down here around your private parts, you can't see it as well. So immediately, when someone has a sword coming towards their crotch area, because they think about their crotch more than they think about their throat. It's just no ifs, ands, or buts. You get to about right here, immediately they try to move back and their head slightly moves forward. That's why on number 2, you keep it down there and you come in hard. Their body moves back, their hips move back to avoid this, but their head tilts forward, and you come on and you move in for a great shot to the head. So not only is the first cut a good strong cut, it's more of not a feint, but it's more of like, if I miss you with this one, I'm coming in with the other. So take that in consideration when you practice. And just stand up, relax, and pull the sword, lift it up, down the sword, and stand into it. And practice this over and over and over, like watching TV. A lot of times, students think too deep into it, and they think harder than their rote memory sets in. Just look at a circle on the wall if you like to, or watch your favorite TV program, and just keep in the fact that you just keep pulling the sword back and pulling it in and practicing and practicing and practicing to become proficient.